The tropics have been active and they're only getting busier. I'll have new information on the two invests in the Atlantic and the latest on Hurricane Erin. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. It's nice to see you on this Thursday. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, we actually have three different potential development areas here, but we'll highlight the two that will have the potential impacts into the Caribbean as we go through the week. One very close already to the Leeward Islands. Newest information on Hurricane Erin. A lot to get into in this video with some impacts occurring right now across our area. So let's get started. Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Storm comes into your area, you get damage of any kind, wind, hail, hurricane. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Friends, go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Now, always, I want to hear from you guys, my Meteo Mundo weather community. You guys are fantastic. Let me know in the comment section below what's been happening. You have a specific question about the forecast as we move along through the video, drop it down there as well. I do want to start with Hurricane Erin because there's a couple of new pieces of information late on this Thursday to pass along. First of all, Erin is still a very powerful Category 2 hurricane with winds of 100 miles an hour. We now have a tropical storm warning for Bermuda. It has been upgraded from a watch to a warning. I'm gonna get rid of this development area. We'll highlight this in a second. The outer southern and easternmost feeder bands are beginning to move into Bermuda, where winds are freshening up across the island at around 35 miles an hour. Erin, believe it or not, has gotten even larger. Now we have tropical storm force winds that extend outward up to 320 miles from the center of circulation. So yes, very close to Bermuda, we have sustained tropical storm force winds. The center of Erin is about 340, 350 away, but as it curves to the north and to the east, it's going to stay within that proximity of Bermuda through most of this Thursday and at least to the first half of Friday. So tropical storm conditions are likely across Bermuda right on through Friday afternoon with very squally weather, with very dangerous surf and sea conditions as well. Now, obviously, this buoy held on for its dear life as it crossed Erin, but it was producing some gusts behind the storm of hurricane force. And that was just within the last 6 hours. That buoy had a lot stronger winds during the overnight hours. Still have tropical storm warnings for North Carolina, the coastline, up to portions of Virginia. Winds are still very fresh right now. I do have access to buoy data, so this is another great feature here at Meteo Mundo. So you're looking at some of the marine buoys just off the coastline of Virginia and North Carolina, where again, they're producing some wind gusts right now, 40, 50 miles an hour. It's the surge that's been the biggest problem there. Again, breakers of 10 to 20 feet, but inundation of water with this high surf and high tides has been a big problem along the coastline for us here. We can take a look at the local storm reports in this area. A couple to point out real quick. I'm going to drop off the warnings that are currently into play. So unfortunately here in North Carolina, and again, it's just one of those features that I can show you guys. When we look at this, you're just going to see a lot of big time flooding here. Strong winds, localized flooding, roads under the water over the roadways. Buxton has been an area of OBX has been hit very hard. Dare County has been very rough. Again, a lot of closing and just a lot of wind and, unfortunately overwash here throughout OBX. So our thoughts are with our friends there in portions of the Outer Banks, but it gives you an idea of kind of, what they've been seeing here looking at those local storm reports. The good news is, I guess if there is that Erin's influence is beginning to pull away right now. And the deeper into this Thursday that we go, expecting conditions to get better there. The winds will begin to subside and the rainfall will begin to taper off a bit as well. Then you get, again, and I'm going to bring back on these wind gusts here. Then you get up into the New England coastline and you're going to get 30, 40 mile an hour breezes from time to time. But again, it is pulling offshore and is not going to have an actual direct impact to these areas. But we could get gale conditions Friday and Saturday for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and potentially even the Cape Cod coastline as well. So it's the marine interest more than anything with Erin pulling away. But again, for our friends in Bermuda, we do have a tropical storm warning that's currently in effect and will probably last most of our Friday. Okay, let's go to our next area of interest. And this is now an invest. So we now, my friends, not that far away from the northern Leeward Islands, have invest 90L. Pressure weak. Winds are 30 miles an hour. We're going to see if this thing can consolidate. The Hurricane Center has a cherry on it, a 70% chance of development. You know, where it is located as we speak right now from Antigua and Barbuda areas, you're looking at about 400 miles on average. So again, if you look at the cone of potential development, the far western areas do sneak into the northern Leeward Islands, especially Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart's, Barbuda, and the Antigua areas. At this point in time, it's been relatively quiet there. I have the wind gusts on. We haven't had any fresh breezes as of yet. But obviously, when I bring on the visible satellite imagery, we're seeing a consolidated storm right now. We're beginning to see good flare-up of deep current convection over where the center is. We're seeing better outflow in all four quadrants, and more than likely we are going to get at least a tropical depression, but down the road, and maybe that's even away from the Leeward Islands as it moves north into the northwest, we would get Ferdinand, the sixth named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. This is what it looks like on the sandwich of the infrared and the visible satellite imagery. Again, just to kind of show you that some of the moisture does extend all the way back down into the Windward Islands, where it's been an overcast day there. So even as this system pulls north and west, we are going to get more moisture coming back into the Lesser Antilles. And generally speaking, the farther north that you live in the island chain, more direct impacts tomorrow and Saturday. But that could just be in the form of some squally weather. Again, we'll look at the models here coming up in a second with this, but a lot of them don't really try and develop this until it's several hundred miles to the north of places like Anguilla and Antigua and Barbuda. And unfortunately, on the end of this cherry, you have Bermuda, where Bermuda 4 and 5 days from now might have to contend with a stronger system headed close to that area. But if you live in the Leeward Islands, this is one to keep a very watchful eye on. And obviously, I'll be monitoring the situation. We'll see how quickly this can consolidate. Aaron did so in a hurry, about this time last week at about the same spot. But it's good to see that the track for the Hurricane Center is much farther to the north and to the west. But if you live in the northern Leeward Islands and even the Virgin Islands, Anegada, Jost Van Dyke, Virgin Gorda, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, please keep a very vigilant eye on how this is developing, and I'll have the latest for you guys coming up, of course, in our video updates. Now, the other invest that we have is 99L. It's still holding together. Winds are 35, pressure's 1,011. It's beginning to encounter some of that shear and drier air that was discussed from the Hurricane Center, which is why they, really ultimately didn't have this developing. But that being said, more models today are trying to hold this together with a closed center of circulation, as it has a very southerly track potentially into portions of the Lesser Antilles as we get into early next week. But at this point in time, it's really struggling, and it's expected to struggle even if it holds together for the next few days. So this is not the imminent one. But now that we have invests on both of these, we can look at what we call those spaghetti plots, those hurricane models. So before we move into anything else, I want to bring those on. Now, with Invest 90L, it just developed, so we're just beginning to get the models run on this. I want to be very clear that the Hurricane Center's track is on the eastern envelope of where we have our initial tropical models beginning to develop. We'll look at the GFS and the European model as well. But again, this was just became an invest a few hours ago, so we're just beginning to see our tropical models run in on this, and they are coming into the left side of this potential development area. So if this does become a tropical depression or a tropical storm, we'll be curious to see what the Hurricane Center wants to do with its potential track. But just note again that potentially down the road it tries to get a little bit closer to Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. But at this point in time, it's still so sloppy and disorganized. It's going to be hard for these models to really gather what's happening with this system until we get a true defined center of circulation. And then this is 99L. Now, all the tropical models are running on this because this one has been an invest for a while, and there's a huge spread. Some of them completely die it out. Some of it bring it into the Windward Islands, others into the central and the northern side of the Lesser Antilles. And again, if it holds together, more than likely going to be weak, but the models have trended and try to keep it together even into the Eastern Caribbean. So I'm going to have a lot more on the models in these tropical systems coming up. Before we get any farther in the video, I do want to get into what's been happening across our area for today. We are going to start back into the Lesser Antilles. Now, again, we have some moisture coming in. It's been a relatively overcast day. From time to time, you've had some showers here and there. Again, just double checking that I have these wind gusts on. I haven't noticed a lot of wind here, more in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico again for today, but you can get a fresh breeze from time to time. It's going to kick up some sea conditions as well, but moisture coming in. Scattered showers, passing showers, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados, and a few more for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, TNT, at least a couple of isolated showers there. This is a live look outside to Corinth, St. Lucia. If you're new to the channel, we have live cameras across the Caribbean to help tell the weather story in the area. And this is what's going on in St. Lucia at the hour. Again, it's a great day. There hasn't been a lot of breeze. You can clearly see the still palm trees there, and a passing shower is possible. But more than anything, some of this moisture is beginning to interact with some of the haze that they've had, and it's kind of just created this overcast sky. Now, few rumbles of thunder just east of Antigua and Barbuda, so places like that this far north going to get an isolated shower or storm. Guadeloupe will be included in this, and as the moisture spins in, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Bart's, Saba, St. Eustatius, and Anguilla, all included with the opportunity for a shower later in the day. And then obviously the impacts from this will start to have your weather going downhill starting Friday morning, all of Friday, most of Saturday. Again, regardless of development, rich tropical moisture coming in with some locally heavy downpours. At this point in time, no official statements to pass along. I'll be monitoring that as far as any, advisories or any watches or anything like that. But, we're going to get some heavy rainfall here. We're going to get some elevated surf and sea conditions. The breeze has been quite strong, despite the fact it's been a beautiful day for the most part here in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, St. Croix, St. Thomas, the Christiansted area, nearly a 30-mile-an-hour breeze. Same thing for San Juan. We've had some developing showers at the hour over portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. These will become more prominent a little bit deeper into this Thursday afternoon and early evening. Scattered thunderstorms here. The air's a little bit drier compared to yesterday, kind of behind Aaron. Again, even here, all of this area, Aaron has pulled a lot of the moisture north with it. So a lot of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, even Cuba and Jamaica and the Dominican Republic and Haiti will be a little bit drier today because of that. I'll swing back down to the ABC Islands here. It's been a lovely day again. Breeze, but we haven't had the significant wind gusts. And I've got a gorgeous shot to show you guys live from Oranjestad. You can clearly see the wind is fresher compared to yesterday. Some 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts from time to time, but there's still that aqua in the sea, my friends. And it's a beautiful shot there at the beach from Oranjestad. Swing back over to our western zones at this point in time. Thunderstorms are quite heavy right now in portions of Central America, especially over Panama and Costa Rica near our monsoon trough. We continue to see more isolated rain and storms than anything else, northern sides of Nicaragua, but especially Honduras, the Bay Islands, Utila, Roatan, Guanaja, coastal Guatemala, and Belize. The trend has actually been lately for especially Belize to get some nighttime, some diurnal showers and thunderstorms where your best chance for maybe a rumble of thunder is overnight. And I could see that kind of being more persistent the next couple of days as well. Sea breeze storms have yet to develop in the Yucatan, but they will. And thunderstorm chances will increase later today for Cancun, Cozumel, Tulum, and then inland pushing west towards Merida and the Campeche areas. Trying to get a couple of showers and storms to sneak into the Cayman Islands at the hour. You can see a few thunderstorms near Grand Cayman if you live there, a couple to the north and east of Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, but they're widely scattered at best. We had some really heavy storms yesterday in portions of Jamaica. Look at the wind in Kingston today, up to around 30 miles an hour, so fairly fresh breezes. But again, the air here, when I bring on the water vapor imagery, it's just a little bit drier. There will still be some localized thunderstorms that develop later today, still favoring southern and western parishes more than anything. And again, we're drying out a bit through most of the central, southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. But my friends, we're not done with the moisture from Aaron wrapping back into the south side all the way into the northern Bahamas today. Yes, this is some moisture. You can clearly see it's getting pulled into the direction of where Aaron is going, right over Grand Bahama and the Abacos. What a truly unbelievable storm. And again, you guys know, it goes without saying, but how lucky we were that this hurricane took the track that it took. It is still a Category 2 with winds of 100 miles an hour sustained. So even as it gets farther north in latitude, it's still a Cat 2. But first of all, nasty storms, southeast Florida, and those will try and pull towards Bimini and Grand Bahama and Walker's Key and the Abacos with scattered showers and storms as far south as Andros, New Providence, and Eleuthera. And of course, we got our live camera here in central Eleuthera, Governor's Harbor. Still a fresh wind. 20 to 30 mile an hour breeze from time to time. A little bit of blue sky there. You get that far southeast of the island chain, but don't be surprised if you live on Eleuthera deeper into this late Thursday afternoon, early evening, you get some thunderstorms headed your way from west to east, moving across the island chain. Friends, I appreciate you guys taking a quick second, hitting that like button for me right now. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. I appreciate all of you guys and doing Both of those, liking and subscribing, really help out the channel, support us in ways you can't even imagine. So I appreciate taking the time to do so. Thanks for sharing this with your family and friends. Remember, you can also become a member of the channel as well. We have 2 tiers. You can become a supporter for just 99 cents a month. It's a really small way to support the channel, but you get custom badges and emojis during our live streams. I shout you guys out. Your names are in different colors. You want to kick it up a notch and become our new Team M member for $2.99 a month to get access to exclusive member shorts. I produce short videos in between these longer forecast updates, and Team MM members have access to that, kind of my behind the scenes thoughts or maybe some updates on tropical situations. So I do want to, again, mention real quickly here how well the models and the Hurricane Center had the track of Aaron. I'm going to bring up here the track of the storm, okay? And from when Aaron became a tropical storm, from when it became a hurricane as a Cat 5, the models in the Hurricane Center had this moving north of the islands and splitting the difference between North Carolina and Bermuda. And that is what has happened, despite maybe a lot of different things you heard on various social media platforms or other YouTube channels. It really did well. And I've mentioned this not just with Aaron, but for the previous 2 years I've been doing this channel. And in general, at least the last 5 years, the models in the Hurricane Center are really good at tracks now. I mean, very good. Now, look, you always still allow there to be some wiggle room, and you always take it with a grain of salt. But their track history has been excellent the last several years. It is the intensity that the models really still can't handle, okay? And so when we're talking about an invest area here, like the one in red, I'm hesitant to talk about how this could develop as far as its intensity, because these things in a snap of a finger have gone from a Cat 1 to a Cat 5 in 24 hours. Aaron did that. Now, this doesn't look to do that, but you understand that there's some pause as to talk about how quickly this could develop. Ultimately, this is forecast to ride the ridge and go north-northwest and avoid direct contact with the Lesser Antilles, but it is something that we're going to have to be monitoring. And especially down the road into this area, it could quickly develop into a stronger tropical storm or potentially even worse, which is why, again, if you live in Bermuda, this is one you really have to pay very, very close eye on. Let's look at some of the models. So we'll bring those up. This is going to be your GFS model. And we'll start off with this one, and obviously we're going to look at our area in red to begin, all right? Now, the GFS model, as it was with Aaron, is on the right-hand side or the eastern envelope of the beginnings of these models. I want to be clear, this was just named an invest, so all of your tropical models, the HAFS A, HAFS B, HWRF, H1, ICON, all of those are beginning to run their solutions on this, and so we're going to get, more data coming in with this, but you can clearly see on these global models what the GFS is, that you have a system that is likely to wrap up and become stronger as we get towards the weekend or even early next week, and potentially having direct impacts with Bermuda, okay? So again, if we look back down in the Lesser Antilles into tomorrow, you still have a pretty weak, sloppy system that's not fully organized. Still downpours, still gusty winds, still rough and surf and sea conditions, but no true, strong winds at the core there. And even if there were, just like Aaron, it's forecast to miss north, but it is expected to take more of a quicker north turn. And again, we'll see, right? The GFS is within this cone of development from the Hurricane Center, but some of the other models, and I'm just going to put those spaghetti plots back on because, again, this is kind of a developing situation at this point in time. I don't really have a good grasp on what this is going to ultimately become, and neither do the models right now, but we'll watch and discuss together. But the models are a little bit more on the left-hand side of this. So, if this does become a depression, we'll see if the Hurricane Center, what their first track, what they want to end up doing with this. But down the road, it is forecast in a few days to hit an environment where it is likely to strengthen some. And that could be of a tropical storm. Could it be a hurricane? It's not out of the question. We'll just have to see. Again, when it comes to intensity, right? The models have had a very tough time with this, but the GFS, which was a little bit, was well underdone with Aaron, does bring in a pretty solid storm here. So let's look at this real quick. And again, if you live in Bermuda, please don't freak out at this point in time, but just know that, again, this is an area that you need to keep close attention to. So this is sustained winds, by the way, all right? And we do have, looks like some hurricane force winds here with the GFS model. A very small storm compared to Aaron, but you get the idea that if the GFS model is already trying to make this a Cat 1 storm, that, you know, potentially some of the other models, when they start coming in, will as well. So please, 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 if you live in Bermuda, keep a very close eye on this one for sure. Now, we're going to also watch Invest 99L on the GFS model. You can see there's a little bit of a turn, but there's no ultimate closed low, but it never fully goes away as well. Early next week, I think regardless, we're going to get a push of tropical moisture coming into, especially the southern side of the Lesser Antilles and the Windward Islands in general here as well. That's what it looks like on the winds. I'm going to go back over to the reflectivity here. Same model, GFS, just to look at 99L. Then we'll take a look at some of the other models as well. So this is, again, 99L, much more southerly track, right? You know, maybe in that 11 to 13 degree latitude range, which is like Tobago to Barbados. Some of the models are spreading it a little bit farther north, but none of them, if it holds together, has it going north of the Leeward Islands. You know, ultimately, if 99L holds together, it could have more direct impacts than even this one, even if this one is stronger because it's pulling away, whereas 99L looks to have a much more southerly track if it holds together through the Caribbean. So that's what it looks like on the GFS. This is what it looks like on the HAFS-A for 90L. Again, Monday, Bermuda system. Take myself off camera, right-hand side of your screen, max sustained winds of 67 miles an hour. So the HAFS-A, first run, has a high-end tropical storm very close to Bermuda on Monday, where the GFS had a Cat 1 hurricane, okay? But again, proximity to Bermuda is very close, all right? This is Invest 99 on the European track. The European is now a model that does try and hold 99L a little bit more together. Not all the ensemble members are doing so. You can clearly see some fizzle it out in a 24 to 48 hour period, but more compared to yesterday are holding it together. Again, a pretty far south track from like the Guadeloupe, Dominica area south towards St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada, Barbados included in this, for the potential for this to move over the area here early next week. European model. Here's Aaron going away. 90L, 99L, okay? Pause it here Monday afternoon. So you have a spread, but you have Bermuda coming into play on the European model, and you have some of the ensembles trying to hold together a closed center with 99L. Not nearly as significant as 90L, but again, not completely dissipated there. If you guys don't know, the European model has introduced a new version called the AI, where it literally does use artificial intelligence. One of the biggest impacts is that the rendering speed of this is much significantly quicker, and so we can get the data faster on the AI version of this. But I just wanted to show you that comparison, same time frame. This is actually a day earlier. That's what I wanted to point out, is that the AI model has this coming in quicker. Look, here's Bermuda. Even a little bit farther east, this would not be a bad scenario. It would be good to recurve this east of Bermuda, because then Bermuda stays on the weaker west side of the storm. But here is 99, and you notice it's farther north in latitude on the AI model, again, if it holds together. But that is a big if in the next few days. Let's break down your island by island rain chance. It looks like this. We're still going to be pretty dry in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Now, Aaron's influence is finally getting out of here tomorrow, okay? So a few isolated showers and storms. Cuba will still see some solid rain chances over the next several days. Cayman Islands rain chances will build as well. Belize City will see isolated showers and a few storms. Some of that will be in the overnight hours. Cancun and Cozumel, decent sea breeze chances, especially inland from the coast. Jamaica, 40% chance from our friends there the next couple of days, up to a 50 on Sunday. So elevated rain chances coming in late in the weekend. Dominican Republic's rain chances should be building and highest on Saturday, closest to when 90L or whatever it becomes moves north and east of the island. Same situation for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, but you get as far east as especially the British Virgin Islands. And I can't rule out, again, a little bit more direct impacts late Friday and into Saturday. That's something I'm going to be closely monitoring. Of course, the next update, I think we're going to have a much better idea of exactly what that will become closest to the islands. And if it is going to develop, or if it's going to take some time and it's pulling away from the islands with fully developed, but rain chances will certainly go up. Bermuda, again, tropical storm conditions are likely through tomorrow. You get a break on Saturday, and then down the road, potentially as early as Sunday, 90L, the northern side, begins to bring you more showers and storms. Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, Ceiba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, places like that, St. Bart's, 50 to an 80% chance Friday, Saturday, falling again on Sunday as 90L pulls away. But Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, Guadeloupe, all very healthy rain chances coming in. Again, monitoring some heavier rain, some elevated surface sea conditions as well. Dominica, Martinique, you get a little bit farther south, it'll be a little bit of a flatter curve, if you will, okay? Down in St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the rain chance will actually be higher there tomorrow compared to Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Martinique, but they're just not going to get the direct influence of 90L, so your rain chances are a little bit lower. And at this point in time, still not expecting 99L to affect these areas on Sunday. If it were, it would be kind of like late Sunday and into Monday, so I'll be monitoring that. But again, passing showers with some tropical moisture in Barbados for the next couple of days, then a little bit drier over the weekend. Passing showers for Grenada, a little bit better chance for TNT. Suriname and Guyana, some higher rain chances. Nueva Esparta, scattered showers here and there, and a few possible local downpours in the ABC Islands. So this is, again, based off the GFS model, so you're going to see 90L develop with a close approach to Bermuda. This would still kick up sea conditions in the exposed waters of the Atlantic Basin, kind of right behind Aaron. Now, again, is there some cool water upwelling, right? Is there as much juice for 90L to develop behind Aaron? The answer is no, but as far as sea conditions go, it could still crank up a whole heck of a lot of mess there in about the same areas. Maybe not as close to the United States East Coast, but for a lot of our Northeast Caribbean, it certainly could as well. And then again, on this model based off of the GFS, you're going to see some fresh winds coming in with kind of that broad 99L not being wrapped up, but ABC Islands back to Jamaica early to mid next week could really see some fresh sea conditions. Let's look at rainfall totals real quickly as well. Again, this is based off of the GFS. I'm just going to drop off these areas of development, take off the tropical storm force winds here. Again, we've had some really heavy rainfall right along the immediate North Carolina coastline. We could see several inches of rain in Bermuda. Now, the interesting thing is here, and let me make sure I just drop off that area, is based off of the GFS here, where this tracks. Might just take 1 second to bring this up. There could be some significant 5-6 inch rainfall totals, and this would be in addition to what Bermuda would get out of Aaron. So again, another 100 to 150 millimeters or 4 to 6 inches along this path is absolutely possible. You can see the potential rainfall and how close some of the heavier rain could get to Anguilla, St. Bart's, and Barbuda and Antigua, but right now it stays just offshore. But these global models have a tough time with some of the locally heavier downpours. If you remember with Aaron, none of the models had 8 inches of rain in Virgin Gordas, so you take this with a grain of salt. If you catch just being under one of those feeder bands or what we call training thunderstorms, you can get a lot more rain than what these models are showing you. And then this is what the GFS model does with 99L. It drives it into the Windward Islands with the opportunity for a couple of inches of rain in some of these spots, especially Grenada and TNT. Okay, friends, you can follow us across all social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, the easiest way to do so is myMediaMundo@gmail.com. Look, as always, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. While you're down there, please take a quick second liking and subscribing to the channel. And please remember, as I bring this back up, Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lane Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. You get storm damage of any kind, they'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process, so you really have nothing to lose. You want to support someone who supports the channel? Check out leanonmelaw.com for more information. Aaron, invest 90L, and swing in on over, invest 99L. The tropics are active, my friends, several different areas to monitor. I'll have the latest for you here, coming up tomorrow at Meteo Mundo. Take care.